Chainsaws, born for childbirth? The shocking origin story. Alright, picture this: the roar of an engine, sawdust flying, massive trees crashing down. What comes to mind? The mighty chainsaw, right? An icon of raw power, forestry, maybe even a certain horror movie villain. But what if I told you the first chainsaws weren't designed for felling trees, or any kind of lumber work? What if I told you they were invented for childbirth? Yeah, you heard that right. Here at FactSpark, we're about to uncover a true origin story that is far stranger, and way more astonishing, than you could ever imagine. Get ready for a historical journey that's about to completely redefine a tool you thought you knew. Before we dive into the truly bizarre, let's ground ourselves with the chainsaw most of us picture, a powerful, motorized tool that revolutionized forestry and construction. It's synonymous with efficiency, land clearing, and maybe a little backyard chaos. But this modern image stands in stark contrast to its original purpose. The journey from a precise medical instrument to a lumberjack's essential tool is a remarkable one, rooted deeply in a time when medical practices were significantly less refined than today. To truly grasp why anyone would even conceive of a chainsaw for childbirth, you have to rewind to the late 18th century. Imagine a world without modern anesthesia, without sterile operating rooms, or the relatively safe C-sections we have today. Childbirth, especially complicated deliveries, was an incredibly perilous ordeal. C-sections, while sometimes performed, often resulted in the death of both mother and child, making them a desperate last resort. So, what options did medical practitioners have when a baby was too large, or the mother's pelvis too narrow for natural birth? The answer often lay in a procedure called a symphysiotomy, where doctors would surgically cut through the pubic cartilage to widen the pelvis. This was an inherently risky surgery, demanding both speed and precision, and it was often performed manually with a small, less than efficient knife. Think about that for a second. A small knife. In a high-stakes, life-or-death situation. There had to be a better way. And this is where the story takes a truly astonishing turn. In the late 18th century, two Scottish doctors, John Aitken and James Jeffray, independently arrived at the conclusion that a more efficient method was needed for symphysiotomies and the excision of diseased bone. Around 1783 to 1785, they developed a prototype that would shock modern sensibilities, a hand-crank device that was essentially a watch chain fitted with small, serrated teeth. You can almost picture a doctor diligently cranking this thing into a patient's pubic symphysis, definitely not the serene image you typically associate with an operating room, even in a historical context. Aitken even documented and illustrated this chain hand saw in his 1785 publication, Principles of Midwifery or Puerperal Medicine, showing its use in his dissecting room. Jeffray, while also conceiving the idea around that time, produced his version by 1790 and later published on its applications for excising diseased joints. For its era, this invention represented a significant leap forward. It allowed for faster, more precise cuts, theoretically improving outcomes in these incredibly difficult medical procedures. It was, in a grimly ingenious way, a technological marvel. To add another layer of fascinating history to this tale, another independent development contributed to the chainsaw's medical lineage. In 1830, a German orthopedist named Bernhard Heine introduced a separate device called the osteotome. This was another form of chainsaw, specifically designed for cutting bone in general surgical procedures, expanding beyond just childbirth. Heine's osteotome represented a more refined version of the chain osteotome concept. It was also hand-cranked, with the chain meticulously looped around a guiding blade, allowing for precise rotation and cutting. This instrument saw widespread use throughout the 19th century for various bone-cutting surgeries, proving to be a significant advancement in orthopedic surgery. So, while Aitken and Jeffray pioneered the specific prototype for childbirth, Heine's invention further solidified the concept of a chainsaw as an indispensable surgical tool for a broader range of medical applications. Despite its initial utility, the medical chainsaw's time in the operating room was ultimately limited. As medical science advanced, more sophisticated and safer instruments began to emerge. For instance, the Geely twisted wire saw, a more flexible and precise tool, became the preferred instrument for bone cutting in the late 19th century, rendering the earlier chainsaws obsolete in surgical practice. So, what happened to these hand-cranked, serrated chains? They got a serious upgrade. The medical chainsaw was eventually mechanized in the late 19th century, transforming it into a more powerful and easier-to-use device. However, with its original place in surgery filled by superior options, this powerful mechanized cutting tool needed a new purpose. And that's exactly when it found its true calling, the burgeoning timber industry. By 1905, mechanized chainsaws were widely adopted for felling trees, revolutionizing logging forever. The journey from a tool designed to widen human pelvises to one that takes down giant oak trees represents one of history's most extraordinary career changes. Talk about a glow-up. So, the next time you hear that distinctive roar of a chainsaw, it's worth pausing and remembering its humble, and undeniably unsettling, beginnings. This remarkable evolution is a testament to human ingenuity, a powerful illustration of how extreme necessity and desperate circumstances can indeed lead to the most unexpected and impactful inventions. From a crude, hand-cranked device conceived to make childbirth slightly safer in a brutal era, to the powerful tool now efficiently shaping landscapes and industries globally, the chainsaw's journey is truly a unique chapter in the annals of history. While its origin is certainly shocking, it's also a profound example of a game-changing innovation. What other everyday objects might be hiding a shocking secret history? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments below. If this bizarre piece of history was as fascinating for you as it was for me to research, consider hitting that like button, sharing this video with a friend who loves unusual facts, and most importantly, subscribe to FactSpark for more surprising stories and historical revelations. We've got plenty more mind-bending facts coming your way.